All right, good morning. So I was thinking, I woke up this morning and said, why the hell are we doing training on Good Friday when the offices are closed? And then I wrote down because our job is to empower, educate, and encourage. And what better day to reach out to people than when they're not working? So our job is to talk to people, right? And they're home today. So what a great time to call your sphere of influence. Say happy Good Friday, happy Easter upcoming. What's going on with your life? What's going on with your house? Take advantage of what Jimmy and Chris taught you on Wednesday and maybe do some CMAs on MoxieWorks and send out to your past clients. They're not working today, guys. That's why I want you to get up and get out of bed this morning, because it's a work day for you, right? There is no non-work days for us, by the way. I'm sorry. Every day is a work day because you got to answer your phone. And basically, I talk to my neighbors and I say, I'm on a call all the time. Like being a doctor, because I make more money than a doctor. So anyway, so holiday dialing I wrote down. And I want to show you something real quick. This is what I wake up thinking about, just so you know. I want to set the proper expectation. So I'm going to show you something. I've got everything open and pre-ready here. I think I already did this one. Inbox, manager meeting, Google label. Man, I didn't open this one. So I know you're not seeing my screen yet, but you will in a second. Where is she? There we go. Okay, this is a good one. Zoom, share screen. Oh. Okay, so we hired a telemarketer to make calls for us, right? Because we have to make calls too. And we just choose to pay somebody to do it for us rather than do it ourselves, which you have the option to do too, right? Oh, I got two Otises today.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my laptop up, so I'm not holding my phone here. There we are.
Turn off one of you. Okay. So her name is Allie. Allie makes calls for us. And I want to set the expectation. So right now she's sending text messages, which is one of the things we encourage you to do, right? So I just want to, this is real life, right? So I don't want you to say, okay, I'm going to send 10 texts and I'm going to be successful today. So yesterday on 4/12, Allie sent 200, there she is, 245 text messages. 33 said, no, we're not interested. 3 said, yes, we are interested. 5 were an owner or broker, so it was a misdial. 12 wrote back, says, take us off your list. And 14 were duplicate. So I don't add those up, but I'll do it real quick. 34, 30, 47, 53, 65, and 3, 68. So 68 out of 245. 68 enter 245 divide. 27% of the time the person answered us back. So why do you think you're more special? I'll tell you why. Because if it's your sphere of influence, what's in their phone? Your name.
Yep. Hey, Craig, can you turn my video back on?
You want to make you a host in a different profile?
Yes, please.
I can do that. So I thought that was very interesting. 27% of the time, a person replies to a text. And 3 out of 27, sorry, you're an analytical broker, 27.11% of the time, it was a yes. That's crazy. 27%. So if you think you're going to just text, and by the way, this is thumb texting, right? It's illegal to robotext. So if you're using any auto dialers or anything, stop it right now, because our policy does not protect against that and it will be stuck on you. So no auto testing. This is thumb texting, one, boom, 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 boom. And that's the kind of expected results you're going to get. So except for your past clients in your sphere, when you text them, their phone's going to say, oh, it's Otis. Hey, Otis, what's up? You're going to get 10 times the response rate than she's getting. But that's 3 responded yes, so on an appointment. So she goes to Puma's calendar invite list, looks at her calendar, schedules an appointment, he does the interview. All right. So there's a system in place. I just want to share that with you because that's why we're doing training on a Friday, because I want to motivate you to do something today. So that was it. Okay, Otis, we talked last night. There's a lot of stuff going on. And we found all kinds of problems. So you want to start with the mediation that I attended yesterday, or do you want to
Yeah, kick off with that. That was a pretty good one.
Okay, so let's understand first, what I'm telling you is confidential. So I'm going to be very I'm going to tell you the truth, but I'm not going to give you the details. Oh, I got to record. I am recording. Okay. I was going to turn it off while the music was playing and save Jonathan the heartache, but oh well, sorry, Jonathan. So we got sued. An agent of ours had a listing, and I'm not going to put any names or addresses or city. If I put a city or state, it's going to be a lie. Make believe. An agent took a listing in Bonita Springs, and it was a really nice house. It was really fancy, and it had some really cool stuff, and it was 4 years old. So what do you expect to be wrong with a 4-year-old house?
Not much.
Not much. So it was a hot market, and multiple offers were flying, and a buyer came through, and to make his offer really good, well, let me go back up a little further. A buyer came through an open house our agent was holding and said he had an agent. And then he wanted the house, so he had his agent submit an offer after our agent did the work. It happens. It's okay. We're happy with the listing agent, right? If you were not the listing agent in the open house, you'd be pissed because you did the sale job and the guy bought from somebody else. But it's the type market. He comes in all cash on an as-is contract with no inspection period. All right. Now, I would tell you today, all cash as is, no inspection period. Number one, you're an idiot. But you're going to win, right? And I got so many pieces in my head flying around. So anyway, he does. The day of closing, the day before closing, there's a walkthrough, and it's said out loud that there was well, first of all, the seller's disclosure disclosed that there was this air conditioning system in this house is special. Every room has its own thermostat, and it's got its own thing. It's a solar house. It's eco-friendly. It's like power. It's off the grid, and it's a big, nice, fancy house, $1.5 million something. So on the seller's disclosure statement, and this is a warning for all of you, it said, hey, there's a problem with the AC, but it's under warranty. It'll be fixed before closing. Now, you being a reasonable buyer, Otis, would that alert you at all?
Yes.
Yeah, hey, there's a problem with the AC. Would you inquire about it?
Yes.
You should. This guy didn't inquire about crap. As is, no inspection, bought it. And the seller disclosed what they knew. Right? Now, here's the point that's really important. The listing agent, in hindsight, should have questioned the seller more about the condition of the air conditioner. Because now it's alleged that we colluded with the seller. Of course, we colluded, right, with the seller to hide the defects. Because guess what happened? The AC company had been called out to repair the system 19 times in the last 4 years. So the question is that required to disclose? Now, remember, we're in a mediation now. We've got a lawyer, a mediator lawyer. We've got our lawyer, myself, our agent, and our insurance company lawyer. And we have the buyer, we have the two sellers and their lawyer. And then we have the buyer and his lawyer. And we're all in a Zoom call for 5 freaking hours. Right? So they're pointing fingers at us saying, you should have done this, you should have done this, you should have done this. We're pointing fingers saying, you should have done this, you should have done that, you should have, we gave you warning that there's something up. Well, you didn't tell me the whole thing. If you had told me the guys have been out there 19 times, then I would have known. So when in doubt, disclose is it. Because once the lawyers get in, stories get made up and nobody knows what to believe and shit's flying back and forth, back and forth. So the lawyer for the buyer says, look, everybody waives inspections. Is that true? No. The entire AC is trashed. They wanted $85,000 from us and the sellers because the entire AC was trashed. But they trashed the entire old AC and put a new one in and didn't give us the opportunity to describe if it could have been fixed. They just want us to pay for a new system in this fancy house. And this was really rude. And I'm going to say this to all of you because I think it's bad, not in this forum, but when we're on regular Zooms. He sat, the buyer's attorney sat in his car with his sunglasses on for the first half of the mediation. Never took his sunglasses off, couldn't see his face, and was sitting in his car. It pissed me off. It was just rude. And he had a crappy cell signal, so you couldn't even hear him half the time. Then the seller's attorney, gets up and they're being kind to each other, but it's a very uncomfortable situation because the seller's attorney is saying, plaintiff, everything you're saying is very hard to prove. And they're building up a case basically that says it's going to cost you more to settle this, to fight this case than you're ever going to get. It's hard to prove. You destroyed a system that had a warranty still in effect. So why would you do that? All the parts are under warranty, could have been fixed. Why didn't you bring in your buyer's agent to this claim? Why didn't you bring in the AC manufacturer? And why didn't you bring in the AC repair company? You're just suing the broker and the seller? Those other people had things too. So all this is getting really complicated, right? This is 4.5 hours. It's possible that, we're responsible for the service calls and the labor, but not the parts. They were under warranty. So who are you to make that claim without our input? And they said they sent us a letter, but we never replied, which isn't true because we never got one. The sellers never got one. And then this was really interesting, and pay note to this. So this house had what they call a power wall, which is a solar system that powers the house. And Otis, you know the contract pretty well. On the included items, is the solar system included? No. So what should the buyer's agent have done?
Included it.
Included the solar system. They didn't. So, and the solar system, they asked us for evidence, or not evidence, but materials on the solar system after the contract was executed. Right? So they're claiming now in their claim against us that we've got to replace the solar system because they thought the solar system stored backup power that they could resell to TECO. Right? They made this assumption on a piece of material that's not even included in the contract. And then they want us to warrant it, and they didn't even know about it until afterwards because they'd never seen the house. Well, they saw the house, but they didn't do any inspections. Solar was not represented in the contract. The plaintiff was given the phone number to learn about the solar system, never did anything about it during the contract period. But after closing, it's okay to sue, and he wanted $13,000 for Powerwall repairs. Our attorney said the Powerwall is not included. You didn't even request it until after the closing date. The only issue you brought up on the final walkthrough was the barbecue starter. They go with this fancy outdoor barbecues and they got electric starter, and it didn't work, and they wanted that fixed the day before closing at their walkthrough. The only item they reported. Now it's interesting because the counsel for the seller used to be the in-house counsel for Remax Metro over in St. Pete. And she tore me apart because Rusty didn't have a walkthrough inspection. And that Remax attorney said, it's required that you have a walkthrough inspection. We never paid our agent unless they had a walkthrough inspection. And I said, with very strong confidence, no, it's not required by FREC or by any board to have a final walkthrough inspection. Now, is it a good idea? Yeah. If you know you're dealing with an a-hole, get them to sign off on a walkthrough inspection. But in a normal situation, it's kind of like rubbing salt into a wound, right? Hey, we've been hiding stuff from you. Now we're going to make you sign off that you recognize that everything's good. For me, it's kind of creepy, but that's me. So I'm not making that happen, but it's not a bad idea. So use your judgment. If you feel like the seller or buyer is litigious, have them sign off on a walkthrough inspection. It says the house is satisfactory condition. It's in the condition it was meant to be, because we had that to be stronger for our case, but it didn't matter. So we're all in this big room. We say hello to each other, and then he breaks Zoom into 3 different rooms: buyer, seller, and broker. So we're in 3 different rooms on Zoom. We can't hear them. They can't hear us. We go through. So we're talking amongst ourselves, and the mediator goes into every room. So after about 20, 30 minutes, the mediator comes into our room and says, okay, here's the deal. And the mediator is this, he's a transaction broker, right? He's not put on anybody's one side. And he says, okay, here's the deal. This guy is super wealthy. He feels like a fool. He's been taken advantage of, and he doesn't care what it costs. He's going to go to the mat on this. So long story short, I talked him into a bracket. A bracket is what they do in negotiations. I say, okay, you want 85 grand. What's the lowest you take? Well, I'll take between 60 and 85. And then the mediator goes to the next room and says, I'm making these numbers up too. Okay, we got him up down. He wants 85. He said he's the richest guy in the world. He's a carrier, he's going to fight to the mat, but he'll go as low as 60. What will you guys do? And then they went to the sellers. The sellers are more responsible, obviously, than us because they own the house. And the sellers come back and they go bracket, well, he'll go 60 to 85. We'll go 30 to 50. No, 20 to 50, let's say. So then he's got to go to us and say, hey, the seller's going to go 20 to 50. The buyers want 60 to 85. What will you do? We say, well, we're innocent, right? We didn't do anything wrong. We'll give him $2,000. So it just goes on and on. It's very uncomfortable for the whole situation. And we bracket back and forth, bracket back and forth. And we end up with, we ended up settling at less than 50% than what he wanted, which is pretty cool. And then the attorneys had to go write up agreements and put all these hold harmless clauses and you can't sue us ever again for anything ever. And all this other stuff goes. But what a time. So we're probably talking 3 or 4 months. Our agent is freaking out because, what's it going to cost me? So let me tell you, and this is where it's important. You guys are paying for E&O insurance. You don't pay for the cost of the policy, but you pay $40 per closing. So our agent's only responsibility was $40. My responsibility as the broker was the deductible, which is $5,000. And the settlement was in excess of almost $50,000. So we had to pay $5, you had to pay $40, and the rest the insurance company picks up. How sweet is that? Right? Because the agent called me the night before saying, hey, I don't have that much money. How much do you think we're gonna have to come up with? I said, dude, you're covered. We got insurance. Right? That's a nice feeling. I mean, you work for a responsible brokerage that has the right stuff in place. It's funny, we were just notified by Century Going Corporate last week that they're requiring now cyber insurance on all brokerages. And we had just signed up for cyber insurance about 2 weeks ago. So we're one step ahead of them. So now we got cyber insurance. So if somebody makes a mistake with E&O insurance or wire transfer fraud or all that other crap, we got a big policy to cover us because I'm just afraid of what can happen with all. You heard Chris LeChance me yesterday. Chris says it's rampant. He's getting hit all over them. Of course, they're watching 40 offices across the state.
Yeah.
It's rampant what's going on out there. So we just have to be more diligent now than ever before. But I'm going to tell you, it is nerve wracking to go through this experience and you don't want to do it. It's going to take you off your game for months on months end. So when we got to I didn't think we were going to settle. This guy was a pompous ass. And the fact that he came down, I thought was amazing. But we're done now. And if we weren't done, then we would have to go for discovery. So my attorney would depose all these other people, the AC company, the solar company, and he's running his tab, right? And then their attorneys are going to depose me and our agent and everybody else, the AC company, and everybody's going to get deposed. They have to come in and spend, and these attorneys are $300 to $400 an hour. So there's nothing short of a 3 to 5 hour deposition. So you're $1,500 to $2,000 right there. And it's just on every person you're deposing. And it's just running the meter, right? So for this guy, the sellers I heard had already spent $15,000 on their counsel. The insurance company provides discounted rates for their counsel because it's like a Cardis, right? They provide you the business, so you pay a referral fee type of thing. So that was interesting too. But yeah, so in this case, it's a win because it's over. Because if not, I was talking to the attorney offline. He said, yeah, it'll probably be a year and a half before this gets to our second mediation, because you can't go to trial. You got to go to mediation again. But right now I went to mediation without any facts, with no discovery. So it'd probably take a year and a half to get discovery and get on the docket to be heard in another mediation before we could go in front of a judge. And then all this time, the lawyers are pounding on fees. So our insurance company is saying, oh, if we can get out of this for 10 or 15 grand, it's cheaper than going to the next step. So let's just cut our losses and move on. And that's how legal situations are handled, as business decisions, not emotional decisions. Yeah, you're right. The buyer had no leg to stand on except for enough money to not give a shit if we had to fight him. And that's what the mediator said. He's super rich. He's super pissed. He feels embarrassed, and he's not going to walk away from this. He's super stupid because he had an agent who didn't do anything. He had an agent who didn't advise him to get a walkthrough inspection. He had an agent who didn't advise him to get a home inspection. He had an agent who recognized the house was warm the day before closing and should have suggested, hey, we're not sure about this. Let's extend the closing till we have time to investigate this AC system. That's what should have happened. But his agent wasn't even subpoenaed to this mediation because his agent's apparently one of his best friends. And in addition, the agent kicked back a third of his commission to the buyer at closing. And he didn't even do anything. He showed up at the walkthrough. Our agent did everything else.
Why do you have to kick back a third if he's super rich?
I told you he's a scumbag. Well, that's not, I'm sure he's a really nice guy, probably a happy father with loving children, but he's going to die of pancreatic cancer. Is there a formal complaint with the FREC against? No, our agent did nothing wrong whatsoever. They were a pawn because we're a broker, we're a large brokerage company with a big insurance policy. And they know damn well our insurance company is going to settle and throw cash at the problem. So what we were is we were an asset to the seller, because if we weren't there, the seller would have to be arguing with the buyer by himself. So having a big brokerage with a big insurance policy is actually a benefit to the seller if there's a problem, because we're in the mix with them, as opposed to them fighting it on their own. So if you go with Aardvark Realty, who doesn't have a couple $1 million E&O policy, you know, they're not going to bring them in the case because it's not worth the time. So the hard parts of being big and known. Wow, this is a long one.
Mm-hmm.
I have a client that wants to list its house to sell. Great. He was under forbearance last year. Okay. He paid the 3 months, but the payment he made in August for September, the bank did not apply to the payment. He's got a letter from the bank saying that he did not make the payment for September. He called the bank and they took the August payment and credited it to the escrow account. He applied for a credit card, and that's how he found out they reported the late payment under the CARE Act. Is the owner protected? CARE Act is over now and does not need to get the property up to date, but now he has to wait 30 days to see if it's an issue. So my question is, would this hurt him? Yes, it'll hurt him in the future. And if you had a forbearance, does this still? Yes, it does stay on your credit. What can I do? Tell him. You know what I would do? I mean, I punt, guys. I don't give legal advice. We have an attorney named Tom Abraham, who was our master at Otis. I think he was pre-you. Tom Abraham and Sweeney is a brilliant attorney. He actually was Jeff's roommate in college. And he's super, super smart. And he did thousands of short sales for us. He's got tons of bank relationship. I just had an ex-employee from many, many years ago call me, needed help. And in a situation similar to what you're talking about. And I called Tom. Tom got involved. He stalled their foreclosure. He got the bank straightened out. When the attorneys talk to the bank's attorneys, things happen different than when the consumer calls the banker. Because the banker's an employee with their hands cuffed together like this. The buyer has no idea what they're talking about under borrower. So when the attorneys talk, shit just happens. So I would recommend, you know, text me, Joe, and I'll text her. I'll put his number in the chat if you want. That's what I would do. I would have a consultation with Tom Abraham. And Tom, it may not be Tom himself, it might be Jason James, but they're both brilliant. And I would hand any of these default cases to Tom and let him get involved. Many times the banks wouldn't pay the fees because they don't want that house back. But I can't give legal advice. So that's that. Oh, okay. So then the day before this hearing, mediation, the buyer's attorney sent a demand letter for all their line items of their damages, right? And then we were supposed to go through and then cross out what we didn't agree with, which was most of it. He asked for, and this is what's going to happen in any case like this. The attorney is going to make claims for damages. So I just had, Deborah Weiser had a closing coming up this week. And it's a divorce case, and the seller, Mr. Asshole, you know, is being a jerk and doesn't want to sign the closing papers because he wants more of the share of the proceeds than he's entitled to per the divorce agreement. So he's trying to bring our agent in to leverage her because he knows she wants the commission. And I said, Deb, no, stop it. Tell him he better check with his attorney, because if he doesn't, he's going to be in breach of contract and he's going to cause damages to his ex-wife and the buyer and the buyers. Just that's all you need to say. Check with your attorney. Guess what? He never checked with his attorney. Guess what? He signed the papers. when you detach yourself from that situation and you say, look, I can't help you. If you don't close, you're in breach of contract. I suggest you call your attorney and find out what the damages are going to be. They start shaking their boots. They won't show you that, but that works for me every time. I'm not attached. I don't give a shit what you do, but I'm telling you, if you don't close, you're going to be in breach of contract. You better call your attorney and find out what that means. And then he, lo and behold, showed up and signed. Right. So these damages get really big. I had to stay in. I had to stay in a hotel for 3 months while the house was being renovated. And it was a nice hotel. It was $300 a night. So that's $9,000. And then I had to do this and I had to do that. And I had to do this and all this stuff. My car broke down and I couldn't get to work because of this. And I lost pay. And they just build these damages up and build them up and build them up. And then you got to go fight over what the damages really are. And that comes out in trial, not in mediation. So mediation worked in this case, but 3 attorneys for 5 hours. So let's just say an average of $300 an hour. So that's $1,500 times 3 is $4,500 in attorney's fees just yesterday. It's not fun, guys. Not fun, but it's nice to have insurance. No inspections, guys. I'm sorry. It's stupid. If you have the buyer, I know sometimes you got to do it to win the property, but put a real short one in, right? You're writing as is anyway, so they don't have to make repairs, but at least dig in and see.
Know what you get yourself into.
You gotta know. Don't walk into a dark cave without a flashlight because you're walking into a dark cave.
Mhm.
I don't know if these people are honest. And I'm looking at a house just came on the market across the canal for me. And I know this house. I built that house as a spec for one of my landowners. And it was a cool floor plan back in 2000. Get a load of this, Otis. I listed that house brand new, under construction, on the water in Symphony Isles in 2000 for $199,900. It just hit the market for 900 grand.
Wow.
And it has not been touched. It made me kind of vomit in my mouth. The yard, not mowed, no grass, full of weeds. Citations, I read the minutes to the neighborhood. Citations all over the place. Trees are dead. They did nothing to make this $900,000 house attractive. From the outside anyway, I didn't go inside. That's just not right, guys. Not when these assets are coming up with $900,000. I know the guy died, his son's taking care of it, but still spend $5,000. And if you spend $5,000 and fix it up, it's going to sell for $10,000 more.
Mm-hmm.
We're all forgetting that. And nobody's giving the right advice to the sellers, but the sellers are saying, hey, I'll give you 1% because it's going to sell real easy. No. Back up. This is how I run my business. You want to work with me or not? Deliver value. You spend $5,000 on this house, I'll get you $10,000 more. Because at 900 now, it's going to sit there and then it's going to probably sell at 850. Or it might have sold for 915 if it looked better. So, okay. All right. So that was it. That was the summary. I wanted to share that with you guys because there's a lot to learn out of that. And most of it is you don't need help until you need help. And when you need help, you got it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, this is not my first rodeo. I've done it a bunch of times. But it's a scary proposition if you've never done it before. And I'm desensitized to it because I know what my exposure is. It's $5,000 and I can handle that. But the last one, the insurance company had to pay paid 120 grand. That hurts. Not me. It hurts the insurance company. But it also hurts me because what's going to happen to my premium next year?
Goes up.
Yeah. So that's all good. Okay. So I want your help. And this is kind of a setup because one of our agents received a gap appraisal addendum. And this is Master the Contract Friday. So these appraisal addendums are good, but there's no leadership out there who's writing them and if they sound good. So I've got one here somewhere. There it is. Okay, so forget the names, doesn't matter. Appraisal, why don't you read it? I've been talking the whole time. Am I sharing? Yes.
No, I'm not seeing it.
I'm not sharing my screen?
No.
Holy shit, I've been talking the whole time. Now you see it.
There we go. Okay.
So this is a nice form. Notice there's no footer. So it's not an FAR form.
Right.
So somebody just wrote this. And I sent it to Jim Holloway, our attorney, and said, what do you think about this? And he called me yesterday morning after a 2 week ago email and said, hey, I was thinking about you this morning and this. So read this and let's talk about it after you're done.
I'm going to cut right to the body of it because the top is really just the parties involved, the address involved. In the event the appraised value is less than the purchase price, buyer agrees to pay the difference between the appraised value and the purchase price provided same does not exceed 235,000. Buyer acknowledges that said funds are additional monies that shall be paid by buyer at closing, either as part of buyer's loan or, if not incorporated into the loan, as part of buyer's obligation to provide cash proceeds at closing. Buyer affirms this clause shall also serve as a waiver and a removal of buyer's contingency and right to cancel the contract if the determination of the value for the appraisal of property obtained by buyer's lender is insufficient to meet the terms of the loan approval as set forth in paragraph 8 of the contract.
That sounds pretty good, right?
It sure does.
So Jim says, okay, so that means, well, no, the one Jim was talking about said, buyer, you got to be very careful with these things that are being written by people. This one is written well. Let's say it says, buyer will pay up to 5,000 over appraised value. Let's say the house was 280. Buyer comes in at 310, fully expecting it to appraise at 310, and it appraises at 255. What does the buyer pay? Signed a contract at 310, it appraises at 255, and there's an addendum that says buyer will pay 5,000 over appraised value.
Yeah, you still got a $50,000 gap.
So Jim said 255, 5,000 over appraisal is 260.
Mm-hmm.
But the contract price is 510. So the advice was, when you see these things, if it's written like a dollar amount over appraisal, you need to put a low field.
Yeah.
But not less than. Right? You got to put a floor is what he called it.
Right.
So this one doesn't have that because they use dollar amounts rather than 5,000 over appraisal. In the event the appraised value is less than the purchase price, buyer agrees to pay the difference between the appraised value and the purchase price and same, and the purchase price provided same does not exceed 235. So the most you're going to get out of me is 235. See, this is where it's really dangerous. That's why it's been on my list. Angelique sent it to me. We need to have one of these in our form that's approves, that covers both scenarios. Right. I don't know enough about this particular contract to see, but it looks like the buyer's willing to pay up to 235. And if it appraises for less than 235, the buyer's going to make a whole difference up in cash. But if I were the buyer's agent, I'd say, hey, if it doesn't appraise for, at least 30 grand within the appraised value. Or you need to have the conversation with the consumer saying, how much cash you got, dude? What if this only appraises at 200? You're stuck paying 235.
Yeah.
Do you have the 35 grand? These are the risky things that are happening in this market, which I'm kind of happy for a slowdown because we won't have as much of this. But there's a lot of problems that could come in the future by misunderstanding of addendums that are not written by FAR, right? Nothing down here. So we just got to know. So that's what I'm here. That's Otis is here. Joe's here. Chris is here. And Thomas is here. And Kat's here. And, when you get the questions that you're not sure, call. And if we don't know, Chris will call me. I'll call Chris. I'll call Jim Holloway. Jim will call me. I'll call Otis. Otis will call Joe. And we'll figure it out together. But don't walk into the cave without a flashlight. That's probably my new saying now.
Yeah. Well,
That's
it's good that, as they say, measure twice, cut once. It's good to get that second set of eyes on it just to get a different perspective as well.
I know clearly what I intended to say.
Yeah.
Right. But, people see things in different ways.
Lauren's right. She likes our short, concise, clear drop downs that we can choose from. And it makes a lot of sense. Keep it short, simple, and this is where we are.
I'm gonna write that down.
And when you think about it, Craig, 10 years ago, we were dealing with short sale addendums and the ability to inspect after the short sale approval was done. We never see that anymore. This is what we're seeing in today's world, but in a few years, we won't be seeing this anymore as well.
Right.
It's adjusting to the times because the market is always going to change. So we as professionals have to change with it. And so this is a great thing for us here. And we'll be talking about it in 5 years from now.
The last line of my Wizard article for the last couple of months has said, I told my agents to forget everything I taught them about real estate in the last 2 years.
Yeah,
2 years ago. It's not relevant today.
it's not relevant.
Right? It's not relevant today. All right. So dot loop, we covered that one. What is this one? This was a fun one. I mean, bullshit baffles brains in a tight market. This is our agents holding open house. A buyer is running around on his own and likes the house and submits this contract. I'm looking for page 2, guys. There is no page 2.
Wow.
Now, Otis, let me ask you. If the seller signs this, is it a binding contract?
It could be. I got to read it. Look at that thing.
Oh, it is. You don't need to use the FAR bar contract to buy and sell real estate.
Yeah.
You can use you can do it on a cocktail napkin.
Mhm.
If it's in writing, it meets the statute of frauds and it's an agreement. Now, is it enforceable? I don't know. So now in this one-page agreement, and I read it. So our agent said, what should I do with this? And I said, call the other agent and tell them to submit it on a FAR bar contract because you're the listing agent and you want that for our seller. The buyer doesn't have an agent doing it on his own. And you counter on a FAR bar contract.
Yeah.
As you read through this,
Well, it strips away all the protections.
there's no protections. Who pays closing costs?
Yeah.
Doesn't say. I mean, there's 600 lines on our purchase and sale contract,
Yeah.
but I want you guys to have the umph to say, I don't need to call my broker for this. This is stupid. Give me a FAR bar contract or I'm countering on one.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, and we live in Florida. You get something like this, you're cutting out force majeure. You're cutting out, I mean, like you said, who pays for title? That's ambiguous.
Special assessments, doc stamps on the deed,
Oh my gosh.
real estate commissions.
Timelines. Where's our timelines for title? Where's our
Title
timelines?
acceptance, right? Home inspection as is. This offer is subject to buyer obtaining a real estate mortgage for no less than 9A. This offer is further subject to buyer obtaining termite and pest report. Oh yeah, that's real important. If you had a
Listing
mortgage,
Get this.
seller shall pay listing broker upon closing. What about the buyer's broker? Where if it's our buyer, it's our listing agreement, we got both sides, we get both commissions. Now, a lot of buyers think, well, I don't have an agent, so you don't have to pay the other agent. No, you're paying Century 21. Century 1 will pay another agent if one is due a commission, but if one is not due a commission, Century 21 is going to keep it. Our contract doesn't say Century is going to pay, the seller is going to pay Century 21 and Coldwell Banker. Sellers may Century 21. Century 21 will pay Coldwell Banker if there's a Coldwell Banker involved. It's not, we're going to pay Century 21. But buyers don't see it that way.
Lauren, that's funny.
What'd she say? Inside a cereal box. Yeah, this is a joke, but this is happening out there. So I just want you to be aware of it. Oh, and the closing is going to occur at Nona Title Inc. on Alafaya Trail in Orlando. This is a Sun City Center house. So we're going to drive to Orlando. What the hell is he thinking? Do you think this Mickey Mouse Title Company is going to have a RAN, remote online RON system, remote online notarization? No flipping chance. I mean, Aaron Davis's companies have 40 offices. They can afford to do that process and have the security in place to do it. Nona Title Company is not going to have the power to do that. They're lucky to do 20 closings a month. Paramount alone is doing 70. Aaron's doing over 1,200 closings a month. Totally different caliber of operation. Subject to buyer's walkthrough inspection. Okay, there's the buyer's. What does our buyer's walkthrough inspection look like? Is it more than one sentence? Yes, and you're not allowed to bring anything else up other than what was mentioned in the inspection report,
Mhm.
right? Or an as is, not even that. Oh, are there inspections and repair limits? I don't, there's nothing in here,
Right.
but Stanley and Friedman and Angelica Lorenz think this is the way to buy and sell real estate. Now, this is what you all should have a copy of this and present it to a FISBO that you're working with. Say, this is who's running around making offers on your property.
Mhm.
That just, people are silly. I was going to say stupid. But it's just Mickey Mouse versus, the FBI.
Yeah.
It's just-
I've always
great.
felt FISBOs, you should hand them a blank FAR contract and have them just tell them, I encourage you to read this. And who's your title company? Because those are two holes that rarely do they think about.
Yeah. Yeah, but you got to remember too, most title companies say, just bring the buyer here, we'll fill out the contract form. I've seen that happen a lot.
Hmm.
Okay, another thing I wrote down was, but you see the point here? Bullshit baffles brains. In loose markets like this, shit's happening that should not be happening. And we have to be the police force that says, no, we're not operating like this. So you have my power to do that. Otis, you're in the market way more than I am because I'm not really looking for buyers or sellers other than for buying for myself. But what percent of the time do you like it when you get a 1 or 1.5% commission offered on the co-broke?
Of course not.
Oh, let me show you this first.
I couldn't imagine my dentist liking it if I said, hey, yeah, you did a great job, but I just want to give you a fraction of what your value is.
All right, so here's a listing that is on, I don't even know what street it's on. Chris sent it to me. The compensation. Let's talk about this right here. See this row? I can't highlight.
Yeah. So you got to be a
Single
single
agent.
agent to make money.
2.5 minus $450. A non-rep gets 0 and a transaction broker gets 0. Now, how is that in the seller's best interest?
It's not.
Well, in this case, the seller is a scumbag. But so if you work for Coldwell Banker and you're not allowed to offer single agency, you can't have a commission on this house. So he's ruled out at least 50% of the brokers, right? And the MLS, this is the MLS company. I don't want my name on this company with a listing like this in the marketplace.
That's bad business.
It's bad business. And that's out there. And you guys need to read these things now, right? It's happening. What is it? Greed is the devil's playground, or I don't know, whatever it is. But greed has entered the marketplace.
Yeah.
And it takes a really good salesperson to overcome that type of objection. But this is either an agent who didn't explain or an agent and a seller conspiring to be deceptive.
Yeah.
That makes no sense, right? It should be a violation of MLS in my opinion. All right, so that being said.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing out there right now is the sellers are starting to notice that it's starting to level out. Rates are going up, so they're trying to cash out while they can. But as you said, greed is coming into it, so they don't want to pay anyone. They really want to get as much as they can from everyone as possible. And it turns into bad business, what it does.
But let's have this conversation because I had it 2 nights ago. Matthew asked me to talk to a broker friend of his in Golden, Colorado. Nice girl. She just bought a Century 21 office of all things. And she's got an opportunity to get a new home project. So he sent her to me so I could give her some coaching tips. And I did. And I was talking about, the project I was involved in, where when we got involved, it was $180 a foot. And then we started off the new homes at $250 a foot. And then the market went crazy and the seller went crazy, canceled all the contracts and tried to screw us on all the commissions, which he did. And then now the houses are selling for $400 a foot. And I was kind of proud, right? We're selling houses for $400 a foot. And this girl's got a little office in Golden, Colorado, which is where they make Coors beer, right? Golden, Colorado. Guess what the average price per square foot is in Golden, Colorado?
What?
$700 a square foot
God.
in Golden, Colorado, which is not a bad place. I'm not saying it is, but that's not a waterfront house with a dock and a pool,
No.
right? Now, she said it's like a mini Vale, which maybe that's why. But let's say you were a corporate executive or some sort of analyst for a big company there, because there must be a big company that's affording a wage like that that allows somebody to qualify for an average price of $700 a foot. You know, that would make my house worth $2.5 million. Sweet, I'll take it. I wouldn't take it actually, but $700 a foot. So you got a 3,000 square foot house, it's $2 million. You got $2 million in your pocket. You come down here and you find a 3,000 square foot house in Wesley Chapel. What can you get for $1 million in Wesley Chapel?
A lot.
A lot more than $2.1 million in Boulder or Golden, Colorado.
Absolutely.
So the Golden, Colorado guy comes down to Wesley Chapel and says, holy shit, I got a 2-acre lot with a 4,500 square foot house and I can get it for $1 million. So he takes the 1.1 million extra profit from the Boulder Golden house, puts that in his pocket and pays cash for the Wesley Chapel house. And the guys in Wesley Chapel are going, no discount to guys from Wesley Chapel. That house isn't worth $1 million.
That's right.
Where did $1 million come from? Well, the
Mhm.
Golden guy, when you see through John Smith's eyes, then you see what John Smith buys.
That's right.
And I just got back from traveling, 2 events with brokers from all over the country. West Virginia has market prices doubled. Weird places that you wouldn't think of, being hot. They're all hot. They've all got no inventory. There's nothing on the market. So some people are going out to the suburbs, or some people are going out to the country, and some people are going to the mountains, and some people are going to the beach, and some people are buying investment homes in other places, and some people are buying second homes. And there's just so much money out there. And this is domestic. And we're still going to have the foreigners, the Spanish. Jeff said the beaches are full of Canadians and Germans and Spanish people and English people. And they're coming down here in freedom. It's almost like when we seceded from the Union and formed the United States. It's like, there's freedoms over there. Let's bring our families over there for a better life. That's what's going on. So anyway, that MLS example I just showed you is going to be prevalent. And here's your solution. I called FAR's president and said, this is happening. It's ridiculous. I said, we know we're under NAR on this one. And the lawsuit with the Department of Justice, we can't do the things we used to do anymore. It's price fixing and we can't do it. So that's it. So this is, I think, your solution. This is the attorney's recommendation to us, is we have a showing agreement. And it's really, really simple. It's just, hey, look, buyer, I'm going to work for you and I'm going to get my commission from the seller. But there's so many games being played out there now that I can't work for $1. And there's people out there that are doing that. So I would like to know that you see value in my services. So I want you to sign this agreement that says, if you find a house, you're going to make sure I get 3%. Don't worry, I'm going to write it into the contract. The seller is going to pay it. It's not going to cost you anything. But I can't have him in a position where he can just cancel that contract, give it back to you, and then I get screwed after doing all the work. It's kind of the conversation. And if you can't have that conversation with your buyer, then I'd suggest he's really not your buyer. To Jeff's point, when he's always saying, are they a buyer or a looker? When you demonstrate value, this isn't a problem. So if their MLS is offering 2, then your buyer makes up the 1. And you write into the contract, seller to pay Century 21 a total of 3% commission. 1% over the 2% offered in the MLS. And that's fine. That's part of the deal. And then submit our showing agreement to the listing agent and say, you ain't cutting me out of this deal. I shouldn't say that word either. Wimp. Right? And go ahead and line your pockets. You put the 4% on your side and give me 1. I will, I'll get my other 2 from the buyer, which is going to come off your seller side, because I was going to offer 400, but now that you're making my buyer pay 2%, I'm going to offer 392. Right? I mean, I get it, but the market's slowing down now. Mm-hmm. So this is a really good thing to do. So all you do is go to .loop, go to Florida Interactive Forms. That's all the Florida forms. Type in showing, it'll pop right up. It's a 2-page agreement, and that's it. So I hope some of you will use that. Are you watching the chats?
Yes. Couple good ones in here.
Yeah, Mom, I would definitely submit it before you show, because I mean, if the ones you're gonna show are all paying 3%, great. And I'm going for 3%, guys, not this 2.5 crap. I want to see XYZ Realty get our showing addendum saying, wow, Vegas is pretty smart. They're making more on this than I am.
Mhm.
Oh, Sherry said tonight's the first night of Passover, so don't text too late.
This is correct. Good Friday.
Yeah, Dick, I hate that too. Yeah, some of these greedy listing agents are taking 3.5 on the other side, giving 2.5 to the co-broke. The showing agreement would give you 3. The seller's going to pay 6.5% in that case, and the seller might go to the listing broker and say, "Hey, I'm not paying that extra commission. You are. Take it off your 3.5."
Mhm. Yeah, we're seeing more and more of that, where the listing agent is taking the half point and shorten the half point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lauren, this is in dot loop. So it's a showing agreement. So I'll go back out. I went to templates. I chose Florida Interactive Forms, and I typed in showing, and it brought up the showing agreement. And then I hit it, and it opened. So just add that to your loop and then auto-populate it, and you'll be good. And this is not a new form. It's been around since 2006, believe it or not. But I liked it. I thought it was good. Otis, I wanted you to confirm. You told me you've got 4 listings coming up.
Yes, I got 4 opportunities. One is a neighbor who I've been working with and following up with for well over a year. And the key to every single one of them is the follow-up. So one was a neighbor, and it looks like we're going to be putting her home on the market in May. And we always talk about our business model and the pillars of our business model, and almost all of my pillars, every single one of my pillars have come through on these opportunities. So another one is the community pillar. So I coach youth sports, and a kid I coached, her father wants to sell his house, and I helped him buy a house, and just really kind of guided
I can
him.
just see you on Bakersfield. Hey, little girl, would your dad like to sell his house?
Yeah. The TikTok, they were going to TikTok now. And so, and then another one was a former client who's an investor. I follow up with him all the time. And one of the things I do is I send them CMAs. I sold this guy a house third quarter of 2019, and it was a grand slam because it was on Bel Air Beach. It was right before everything started skyrocketing, and he fixed it up. It was a double lot. We split the lot, and so we're going to be entering the market on the one side. He's keeping the blank lot, but the house that was on the lot, that's what he fixed up, put everything in there brand new. And then I have one that is, I just crossed paths. I was being opportunistic, and the seller hasn't even been in this house in over 10 years. They bought it for their son, who was going to University of South Florida, and the son just walked away from it. It baffles me what people think, but it is what it is. So they were going to give the son the house. The son didn't want the house, so he walked away from it. And so it's been sitting there empty. And so I've been giving them some, basically CMAs. I do CMAs on all of them and say, all right, but here's the key. This is the range of where I think it'll come in. I got to come out and see the house. I got to look at the condition of the house. We got to dress it for success, package it for profit. That means we got to do some enhancement. Maybe it's a few things on a shoestring budget, such as power washing the exterior, the concrete, so forth. I'm big on painting baseboards. When I was selling a lot of the Fannie Mae homes, we always looked at how can we get this thing dressed up with minimal amount of investment possible. And baseboards were always a big one, because when you whiten up the baseboards, it's like a new pair of shoes. And it's lines in the house that can easily be seen. Throwing down some mulch. Mulch is like $1.50, $2 at the most for a bag. So throwing down some mulch, pulling out some weeds, things of that nature. So the 4 listing opportunities are all different pillars. Again, one is the community pillar, where I coached a kid. They trust me with their kid. They trust me with their house. The other one's a neighbor. I'm always having those conversations with the neighbor and then letting them know, okay, well, the one around the corner sold for this. This one's about to hit the market. So I keep them up to date with what's going on. I volunteer the information. I give them quarterly CMAs every quarter. Here you go. Just want to, I'm doing this just to let everyone know where their house stands. And I go right down right down the row of houses in my neighborhood. And so that way it's not this great big time investment. I mean, I can punch those out in 2 to 5 minutes. They are already preset from the previous one that I did. I'm just updating comparables, making slight adjustments, printing it back out, handing it off to them. And sometimes I'll just put it in their on their doorstep or somewhere where I know that they can get it. But I often like to wait until I can see them so I can have that 5-minute face-to-face conversation. And we all know the laws of reciprocation. If I offer you something and you take it, generally speaking, you feel like, okay, I have to reciprocate and give him something back. So for me, it's the reciprocation of knowledge. And so both of my neighbors, I know they're going to sell their house. One is selling sooner than the other. And both of them have committed to me. And every now and then, there's also this play. People don't buy just a house. They buy the neighborhood, they buy the community. And so for me, if I know that the lady across the street who is elderly and she's mowing her own grass, and I send my 15-year-old kid over there to help her out, and then when I'm edging my grass, I'll walk across the street and edge hers, I know that brings value to the community because her house is taken care of. And with that, they look at that as, you know, this guy, he's helping us out, and we're gonna definitely do business with this guy. And so that's the laws of reciprocation that I always put into play, especially when I'm extending the olive branch and giving the CMAs and helping people know this is the range of your investment. Everyone wants to know what their investments look like. And when you're looking at Wall Street, you're looking at your 401k, all that, you're going to peek into it. Sorry, guys, should turn this off. You're going to look into it. You want to know. And so when it comes to your house, especially in a market like this, that's in Zillow has become a great spot for people to do some research, but everyone now knows that these estimates are not accurate. Right. And so I go in and say, all right, well, let's box out this because his estimates, it's a algorithm that takes in all these calculations of homes that are not comparable. So they'll take in new construction, they'll take in a distressed home, they'll take in a home that's really similar and substitutable, but then it gives you a kind of a goofy estimate, right? And so what I do is I say, let's actually peel back the layer. This CMA is the most substitutable homes within a half a mile, a quarter mile, the neighborhood. If I have to expand out to a mile, so be it. But I explained to them how I did it and how, if they were to sell it, we would defend the appraisal. And this is what the range of the value is. And then I always give them one little extra piece. The schools are rated here. They're doing good. Your investment's sound. If you ever need any questions answered, let me know. And it's really a quick conversation. And it's a lifestyle. If you're in this business long enough, you make it part of your lifestyle. And when you're in the business long enough, you have got to have a good follow-up system. And then you have to also have that system remind you that you need to do some person-to-person follow-up as well.
Now, let me ask you, have you gotten involved in the MoxieWorks stuff yet?
Yeah, I'm definitely involved. I'm not, I still have I'm on the curve. I'm still.
Jimmy did a great class on Wednesday on sending them out Moxie CMAs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're great.
And you need a CMA, a way to remind you to take care of them. That's Moxie Engage. Yes. So once again, I'm encouraging everybody to, go back into the archives and watch those classes again, or what. We're not going to quit. We're going to keep going, but yeah, well, get involved in that.
And two things: persistence beats resistance. Mm-hmm. And so if you have a lifestyle in real estate of persistently getting in front of your past clients, persistently getting in front of your neighbors, persistently getting in front of those who could be someone that you can do business with, it's It's part of your brand. It's part of who you are. The other thing that I find is, we all know this, according to National Association of Realtors, 80 to 85% of home buyers say they would use their realtor again or refer someone over to them, yet 15% actually do. There's a 60% gap. And so all you have to do with your career is fill that gap with people you've already done business with. If you've been a buyer's agent for 2 years, now you have a bunch of homeowners that are your clients. And so follow up with them over and over and over. So Moxie Engage, that CRM is incredible. And you just set it and you don't forget it, but you set it, you put them in there, and then it's going to work for you.
Well, you got to go check it every day and see what it's telling you to do.
Absolutely.
Hey, Otis, 240 days ago, you told me to tell you to call this guy in 240 days. Well, if you don't check any 240 days, it's going to go,
Well,
I told you to do it. You didn't do it. Then you get all these overdue tasks and you get stressed out. And
yeah, it's so far ahead of the curve of what's out there. It's definitely, to me, it's worth the franchise fee to leverage the hell out of Century 21 in the company. And then when they give us this, are you kidding me? Yeah, absolutely. I'll take it all day long. I don't have to have the overhead. I just use it. And then when I close, it's paid for.
that's right.
Perfect. But that's my business model.
All right. Well, it is happy. What is it? Good Friday. And you guys have a decision to make now. So do you take advantage of all your past clients in sphere of influence being home where they're easy to reach and talk to and probably in a pretty good mood because they're not at work? Or are you going to go back to the couch and smoke pot and watch Netflix?
You can do both when you think about it. I mean, come on, you have options.
All right. That's your start to the day, guys. Thank you very much for your attention. We had a pretty good group online for a good Friday. Otis, thank you. It's always,
Appreciate it.
that's a virtual
Have a
high
good day,
five.
guys.
All right. Thanks, guys.